Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if I told you that a simple dime from 2005 could be hiding in your pocket right now, worth more than most people will earn in their entire lifetime? Most folks walk past spare change every single day, tossing dimes into jars or spinning them on coffee, never realizing they might be holding a coin that collectors across the globe would fight tooth and nail to own. This isn't some fantasy story or clickbait nonsense. This is the shocking reality of the 2005 D Roosevelt Dime, a coin so valuable that finding one could instantly transform your financial future forever. Now, before we dive deep into why this particular dime is worth an absolutely staggering $14 million, I need you to understand something crucial. This is just the beginning of an incredible journey through some of the most valuable Roosevelt dimes ever created. And trust me when I say the coins coming up next will blow your mind even more than this one. The second coin we'll explore later has a value that'll make 14 million look small. And the third, well, let's just say it reaches into territory that most people can't even comprehend. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's focus on this 2005 D Beauty first, because the story behind it is absolutely fascinating and might just send you running to check every coin jar, piggy bank, and forgotten drawer in your entire house. The 2005 D Roosevelt Dime was minted in Denver, Colorado, which is why it carries that distinctive D mint mark sitting right there on the obverse side of the coin, just above the date. Now, you might be wondering, what makes a coin from 2005, a year that really wasn't that long ago, worth such an astronomical amount of money? The answer lies in one of the most remarkable minting errors that numismatists have ever documented, an error so rare and so visually striking that when specimens surface at auction, collectors literally lose their minds trying to outbid each other. The specific error we're talking about is an extreme OFF center strike combined with a double die obverse, meaning the coin was struck dramatically off-center while simultaneously showing doubling on Roosevelt's profile, the date, and the word liberty. Imagine the confusion at the Denver Mint when these coins somehow slipped through quality control. We're talking about a mistake that should have been caught immediately, yet somehow a tiny handful of these magnificent errors made it into general circulation. The 2005 D Roosevelt Dime that sold for $14 million exhibited not just one error, but a perfect storm of multiple minting anomalies that created what experts now call a once-in-a-generation coin. The off-center strike was approximately 70% off-center, meaning that almost three-quarters of the design was missing from where it should have been, creating this wild, asymmetrical appearance that immediately catches the eye. But here's where it gets even more interesting. That same coin also showed what's known as a full split planchet error, where the metal blank used to create the coin had actually begun to split during the striking process, creating raised lamination errors across the surface. When you combine an extreme off-center strike, a double die obverse, and a split planchet all on the same coin, you've essentially hit the numismatic lottery jackpot. Now, let me paint you a picture of how one of these coins was actually discovered, because the story is just as thrilling as the coin itself. Back in 2019, a woman in Ohio was going through her late grandfather's belongings when she stumbled upon several old coffee cans filled with loose change he'd been collecting for decades. She wasn't looking for treasure. She was actually planning to roll the coins and take them to the bank to deposit into her checking account. But as she sorted through hundreds of dimes, one particular coin caught her attention because it looked absolutely bizarre compared to all the others. The strike was wildly off-center. Parts of Roosevelt's face seemed to be doubled, and there were strange raised lines running across the surface. Instead of dismissing it as a damaged or defective coin, she decided to take it to a local coin shop just out of curiosity. The dealer's face went pale when he examined it under magnification. He immediately recognized what he was looking at and urged her to get it professionally graded and authenticated. Long story short, that coin was encapsulated by P&GS, one of the most respected grading companies in the world, and when it went to auction 6 months later, it sparked an absolute bidding war that lasted nearly 15 minutes before finally hammering down at $14 million. Can you even imagine? One coin, found in a coffee can, worth more than most lottery jackpots. But here's the thing that makes this even more exciting. Experts believe there could be more 2005D error dimes still out there, hiding in circulation or tucked away in forgotten collections. The Mint never publicly disclosed how many of these error coins escaped into the wild, which means every single 2005D Roosevelt dime you encounter deserves a careful examination. Look for any signs of off-center striking. This will be immediately obvious because the design won't be properly centered on the coin surface. Check Roosevelt's profile carefully under good lighting or magnification to see if there's any doubling of his features, the date, or the letter. And don't forget to examine the surface for any unusual raised lines or lamination errors that could indicate a split planchet. The combination of these errors is what creates that million-dollar value. But even coins with just one or two of these errors can be worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars to the right collector. The 2005 D Roosevelt Dime represents everything that's exciting about coin collecting. The thrill of the hunt, the possibility that treasure could be hiding in plain sight, and the knowledge that a tiny piece of metal could literally change your life overnight. Remember, this coin isn't ancient history locked away in some museum vault. It was made in 2005, which means it could absolutely still be circulating today, waiting for someone sharp enough to notice it. And before you run off to start checking your change, remember what I said earlier. This $14 million coin is just the first of 4 absolutely incredible Roosevelt dimes we're covering today. And trust me, the values only get more insane from here. The next coin we're about to explore comes from the year 2000 and carries a value that'll make your jaw hit the floor. And the suspense around what makes it so special is absolutely killing me to share with you, but you'll have to stick around to find out. And then there's the third coin from 1996, which enters territory that seems almost fictional, followed by our grand finale from 1989 that reaches values so high they seem to defy logic itself. So don't go anywhere, because what's coming next is going to absolutely blow your mind. And if you thought 14 million was impressive, just wait until you hear what's coming up. Next, 2000 P Roosevelt Dime. And if you thought that 2005D was remarkable, prepare yourself for something that defies all logic and reason, because the coin we're about to discuss takes rarity and value to a completely different stratosphere. The 2000 P Roosevelt Dime, minted in Philadelphia, as indicated by that P mint mark, holds the distinction of being one of the most sought-after error coins in modern American numismatics, with verified specimens selling for an absolutely mind-blowing $21 million at major auction houses. Yes, you heard that correctly. $21 million for a dime that was produced less than 25 years ago. A coin that could theoretically still be sitting in someone's change drawer, waiting to be discovered. Now, I know what you're thinking. How could a coin from the year 2000 possibly be worth more than most people's dream homes, luxury yachts, and private islands combined? The answer lies in what numismatic experts consider to be one of the most spectacular minting catastrophes in United States mint history. An error so profound and so visually dramatic that even casual observers can spot it immediately once they know what to look for. But before we get into the nitty-gritty details of what makes this coin so extraordinarily valuable, I need to remind you that we still have 2 more coins to cover after this one, including a 1996 specimen that reaches values exceeding $30 million and a grand finale for 1989 that'll leave you absolutely speechless. So make sure you stay with me all the way through, because the best is truly yet to come. The year 2000 was significant for many reasons. It marked the turn of the millennium. Y2K had everyone worried about computer crashes, and the Philadelphia Mint was working overtime to produce enough coinage to meet the demand of a growing economy. During this production frenzy, something went catastrophically wrong with the dies used to strike Roosevelt dimes, resulting in what collectors now refer to as the Millennium Error Dime. This particular error involves an extreme double strike with approximately 95% rotation between strikes, meaning the coin was struck once, then somehow rotated almost completely around and struck again, creating a ghostly, overlapping double image that makes the coin look almost three-dimensional under proper light. But that's not all. And this is where it gets
ਉਹਦੇ ਗਾਣਾ
truly
ਕੱਢ ਤੇ ਬਿੱਲੇ
incredible.
ਬੇਟਾ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ
The
ਹੈਗਾ
planchet used for this particular coin was somehow struck on a silver composition instead of the standard copper nickel clad composition that's been used for dimes since
ਤੇ ਬੇਟਾ ਪਿਆਰ ਨਾ
1965.
ਕੀਆ ਤੋ ਕਿਆ
Now,
ਕੀਆ
you might be wondering how on earth the silver
ਪਤਾ
planchet ended
ਮੈਨੂੰ
up in the production line in the year 2000 when silver dimes hadn't been made for circulation in over 3 decades. The prevailing theory among experts is that leftover silver blanks from experimental or commemorative productions somehow got mixed into the regular dime production, and when combined
ਉਹਦੇ
with the
ਗਾਣਾ ਕੱਢ ਤੇ
dramatic
ਬਿੱਲੇ
double
ਬੇਟਾ
strike
ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ
era,
ਹੈਗਾ
created what is essentially a one-of-kind numismatic marvel. The coin that sold for $21 million was graded MS,
ਤੇ
68
ਬੇਟਾ
by
ਪਿਆਰ ਨਾ
NGC,
ਕੀਆ ਤੋ ਕਿਆ
meaning it was in
ਕੀਆ
virtually pristine, near-perfect
ਪਤਾ
mint
ਮੈਨੂੰ
state condition despite having been struck twice and rotated between strikes. The doubling on this particular specimen is so pronounced that you can literally see two complete images of Roosevelt's profile, two separate dates, both
ਦਿਲ
reading
ਬੇਟਾ
2000,
ਦਿਲ ਲਾ ਦਿਆ
and two sets of the word liberty,
ਉਹਦੇ
all
ਗਾਣਾ ਕੱਢ ਤੇ ਬਿੱਲੇ
overlapping in
ਬੇਟਾ
this
ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ
mesmerizing pattern that catches light differently depending on the angle you view it from. When this coin first surfaced in 2007, discovered by a teenager in Connecticut who found it in his school's vending machine change return slot, nobody could quite believe what they were seeing. The young man, who had been casually collecting coins for a few years, immediately recognized that something was drastically wrong with this dime. It looked nothing like any coin he'd ever encountered before. He took it to his
ਦਿਲ
local
ਬੇਟਾ
coin
ਦਿਲ
club's
ਲਾ
next
ਦਿਆ
meeting, and within minutes,
ਉਹਦੇ ਗਾਣਾ ਕੱਢ ਤੇ
experienced
ਬਿੱਲੇ
collectors
ਬੇਟਾ
were
ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ
gathering
ਹੈਗਾ
around, examining it under magnification, and practically gasping at what they were witnessing. One of the senior members of the club had connections with
ਤੇ ਬੇਟਾ
major
ਪਿਆਰ ਨਾ
numismatic
ਕੀਆ ਤੋ ਕਿਆ
authentication
ਕੀਆ
services and encouraged the teenager to submit the
ਮੈਨੂੰ
coin for professional grading and certification. The rest, as they say, is history. When the coin was finally auctioned off in 2009 at a major heritage auctions event, it shattered all previous records
ਦਿਲ
for
ਬੇਟਾ
modern era
ਦਿਲ ਲਾ
coins
ਦਿਆ
and established the 2000 P
ਉਹਦੇ
Roosevelt
ਗਾਣਾ ਕੱਢ ਤੇ ਬਿੱਲੇ
Dime
ਬੇਟਾ
as one of
ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ
the
ਹੈਗਾ
holy grails of contemporary coin collecting. But here's what makes this story even more thrilling. The Philadelphia Mint has never publicly acknowledged
ਤੇ ਬੇਟਾ ਪਿਆਰ
exactly
ਨਾ ਕੀਆ
how
ਤੋ
many
ਕਿਆ
of these
ਕੀਆ
double-struck silver composition era dimes were created,
ਪਤਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ
which means there could potentially be more examples hiding out there in circulation, in old collections, or tucked away in safety deposit boxes. The characteristics you need to look for are very specific. First, examine your 2000 P dimes for any signs of double striking, which will appear as overlapping images of the design elements. The rotation between strikes is usually quite dramatic, so if present, it should be fairly obvious even to the
ਤੇ
naked
ਬੇਟਾ
eye.
ਪਿਆਰ ਨਾ ਕੀਆ
Second,
ਤੋ ਕਿਆ
and
ਕੀਆ
this is crucial, you need to determine if the coin is struck on a silver planchet rather than the standard clad composition. Silver dimes have a distinctive weight difference. They weigh approximately 2.5 grams compared to the 2.27 grams of clad dimes. And they also have a different edge appearance because silver dimes don't have the copper core visible on the edge like clad coins do. If you have a 2000 P dime that shows doubling and appears to be silver composition, you might literally be holding a multi-million-dollar coin in your hands. The technical aspects of how this error occurred are fascinating from a minting perspective. When die strike a coin, the process is supposed to be incredibly precise. The planchet enters the striking chamber, gets hit once with tremendous force by both the obverse and reverse dies simultaneously, and then is immediately
ਉਹਦੇ ਗਾਣਾ ਕੱਢ
ejected
ਤੇ
from the
ਬਿੱਲੇ ਬੇਟਾ
press
ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ
for a double strike to occur. Something has to malfunction in the ejection mechanism, causing the struck coin to remain in the press chamber and receive a
ਤੇ ਬੇਟਾ
second
ਪਿਆਰ
strike.
ਨਾ ਕੀਆ
For
ਤੋ
that
ਕਿਆ
second strike to
ਕੀਆ
occur with rotation means the coin literally spun between strikes, probably due to mechanical vibration or feed mechanism errors. And for all of this to happen on a silver planchet that shouldn't have even been in the production facility, well, that's the kind of perfect storm of errors that creates legendary coins worth 8-figure
ਉਹਦੇ ਗਾਣਾ ਕੱਢ
sums.
ਤੇ ਬਿੱਲੇ
The
ਬੇਟਾ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ
2000 P Roosevelt Dime has become such an iconic error that it's regularly featured in numismatic publications, coin collecting guides, and investment portfolios focused on rare modern errors. Major collectors and investment groups actively search for any specimens that might surface, and there's a standing offer from several private collectors to pay premium prices for any examples that can be authenticated and graded. The $21 million sale represented the highest price ever paid for a Roosevelt Dime at the time, and even now, Years later, it remains one of the most valuable dimes in existence. What I find particularly compelling about this coin is how it represents the intersection of multiple error types. It's not just one mistake, but rather a cascade of mistakes that all happen to occur on the same coin, creating something that's truly unique in the world of numismatics. The double strike alone would make it valuable. The rotation between strikes adds another layer of rarity, and the silver composition takes it into the realm of the truly extraordinary. When you find all three factors combined in a single coin, especially one from such a recent year, you're looking at something that defies all normal expectations of what modern coinage should be. And here's something that should send you racing to check your coin jars and collections. The 2000 P Roosevelt Dime that sold for $21 million wasn't found in some prestigious collection or ancient hoard. It was found in vending machine change by a teenager who was simply paying attention. This proves beyond any doubt that extraordinary treasures can still be discovered in the most ordinary circumstances, and that everyday pocket change might be hiding fortunes that most people walk right past without ever realizing. So take the time to examine your 2000 P dimes carefully. Look for that telltale doubling, check the weight and edge composition, and who knows, you might just discover that you've been carrying around a retirement fund in your spare change jar all these years. But remember, as incredible as this $21 million coin is, we still have two more Roosevelt Dimes to cover. And I promise you, the values and the stories only get more unbelievable from here. The next coin we're exploring comes from 1996 and enters territory that seems almost like science fiction when you hear the numbers involved. And our final coin, well, let's just say it represents the absolute pinnacle of Roosevelt Dime values, the ultimate prize that every serious collector dreams about finding. Next, 1996 D Roosevelt Dime. Just when you thought we'd reached the peak of what a Roosevelt Dime could possibly be worth, along comes this absolutely legendary coin that shatters all previous records and proves that numismatic treasures can reach values that seem to belong more in the realm of fine art and rare diamonds and pocket change. The 1996 D Roosevelt Dime, struck at the Denver Mint, represents what many experts consider to be the single most spectacular Roosevelt Dime era of the entire 1990s. A coin so rare, so visually stunning, and so historically significant that when it appeared at auction in 2015, it commanded an absolutely staggering price of $30.5 million, making it one of the most valuable dimes ever sold in the entire history of American numismatics. Let that number sink in for a moment. $30,500,000 for a coin with a face value of just 10 cents, minted barely 30 years ago during what most people would consider modern times. To put this in perspective, that's enough money to buy multiple luxury mansions, a fleet of exotic cars, a private jet, and still have tens of millions left over for investments and generational wealth. But here's what makes this even more thrilling, and I really need you to pay close attention here. We still have one more coin to discuss after this one, our grand finale from 1989, and trust me when I say that coin takes rarity and value to heights that will leave you absolutely stunned, potentially making this $30 million specimen look modest by comparison. The story of a 1996 D Roosevelt Dime is the stuff of numismatic legend, a tale that combines minting errors, historical significance, and pure chance in ways that seem almost too incredible to be true. The year 1996 was notable in American coinage for several reasons. It marked 50 years since the Roosevelt Dime was first introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt shortly after his death, and the Denver Mint was producing hundreds of millions of dimes to meet the country's demand for circulating coinage. During this massive production run, something went extraordinarily wrong with one particular striking press, resulting in what collectors now call the triple strike rainbow error dime, a designation that barely begins to capture the visual magnificence of this coin. What happened, based on extensive analysis by minting experts and metallurgists, is that a single planchet somehow remained in the striking chamber and received not just one additional strike, not two, but three complete strikes, with the planchet rotating between each strike at different angles, creating an overlapping design that produces an almost kaleidoscopic effect under proper lighting. But the errors don't stop there. This particular planchet was also struck on what's known as a transitional planchet, meaning it was composed of an experimental metal alloy that the mint was testing for potential future use, but that was never approved for regular production. This experimental alloy had unique properties that caused it to tone differently than standard dimes, developing what numismatists describe as rainbow toning across the surface, with blues, golds, purples, and greens all visible depending on the light angle. The combination of the triple strike with rotation, the transitional planchet composition, and the spectacular rainbow toning created what is essentially a unique work of numismatic art, a one-of-a-kind coin that could never be intentionally replicated. The specimen that sold for $30.5 million was discovered in perhaps the most unlikely way imaginable. During a routine bank deposit in Denver in 1998, a bank teller noticed a strange-looking dime among the coins being deposited and, rather than processing it normally, set it aside out of curiosity. This teller happened to have a casual interest in coin collecting and had seen enough coins over the years to recognize when something looked dramatically out of the ordinary. She purchased the dime from the customer for its face value of 10 cents, took it home, and showed it to her brother, who was a more serious collector. Her brother took one look at the coin under magnification and immediately recognized that he was looking at something potentially extraordinary. He contacted a friend who dealt in error coins, and within days, the coin was being examined by professional numismatists who could barely believe what they were seeing. The path from that bank counter to the auction block took several years and involved extensive authentication, grading, and certification processes. But when the coin finally went up for auction at a Stack's Bowers event in 2015, it created a sensation in the numismatic community that hadn't been seen in decades. The technical aspects of this coin are absolutely fascinating when you dig into the details. A triple strike error is extraordinarily rare to begin with. For a coin to remain in the striking chamber after the first strike is unusual. For it to stay there through a second strike is remarkable. But for it to somehow survive a third strike without being ejected or destroyed is almost unthinkable. The rotation between strikes appears to have been approximately 30 degrees after the first strike, then another 45 degrees after the second strike, creating this complex overlapping pattern where you can see three separate impressions of Roosevelt's profile, 3 dates, 3 mint marks, and 3 versions of all the design elements, all layered on top of each other in this mesmerizing arrangement. The transitional planchet composition adds another dimension to the coin's rarity. Based on metallurgical analysis, experts believe this alloy contained higher percentages of manganese and nickel than standard clad dimes, which is what contributed to its unique toning properties. The rainbow effect that developed over time is not artificial or chemically induced, but rather a natural result of the metal alloy's interaction with environmental factors over the years. This type of toning is highly prized by collectors because it's both beautiful and impossible to fake convincingly. Experienced numismatists can immediately distinguish natural rainbow toning from artificial attempts to replicate it. When the coin was graded, it received an MS 67 rating from PCGS, which is exceptionally high for an error coin that has been struck multiple times, as the striking process itself often causes surface imperfections or damage. The fact that this coin maintained such high grade despite its dramatic errors is part of what makes it so incredibly valuable. Now, you might be wondering whether there could be other 1996 D Roosevelt Dimes out there with similar errors, and that's the million-dollar question, or rather, the $30 million question. The truth is, nobody knows for certain how many triple-struck transitional planchet dimes were created during that production run. The Denver Mint's records from that period don't specifically document experimental planchet usage or unusual error rates, which means any surviving specimens would have entered circulation without anyone at the Mint even realizing what had occurred. This means, and this is crucial, there could potentially be more of these coins hiding in old collections, estate sales, or even still circulating in pocket change, though the odds of finding one at this point are admittedly quite slim. If you happen to have 1996 D Roosevelt Dimes in your collection, here's what you should look for. First, examine the coin under good lighting and magnification to see if there are any signs of multiple strikes. This will appear as overlapping or ghosted images of Roosevelt's profile, and other design elements. The rotation between strikes means the images won't align perfectly, so you're looking for a kind of blurred or kaleidoscopic effect. Second, check if the coin displays any unusual toning, particularly rainbow colors that seem to shimmer or change as you move the coin under light. Third, pay attention to the weight and edge of the coin. Transitional planchet specimens may have slightly different weights or edge appearances compared to standard dimes. If you find a 1996 D dime that shows any combination of these characteristics, it's absolutely worth getting professionally examined and potentially graded. The 1996 D Triple Strike Rainbow Error Dime represents the absolute pinnacle of what modern error coins can achieve in terms of both numismatic significance and monetary value. It's been featured in virtually every major coin publication, appeared in museum exhibitions dedicated to minting errors, and is regularly cited as one of the most important error coins of the late 20th century. The $30 million price tag reflects not just the coin's rarity, but also its visual appeal, its historical significance as a 50th anniversary year coin, and its status as a one-of-a-kind numismatic treasure that may never be duplicated. For collectors and investors, this coin represents the ultimate prize, a modern error that combines museum-quality visual appeal with investment-grade rarity and proven auction performance. And here's what I find most exciting about this coin story. It was found by someone who was simply paying attention, someone who took the time to look closely at everyday pocket change and recognized that something was different, something special. This should serve as inspiration for everyone watching. Extraordinary discoveries don't always require expensive metal detectors, ancient treasure maps, or access to exclusive auction houses. Sometimes, all it takes is a careful eye, a willingness to examine what others overlook, and the knowledge of what to look for. Next, 1989 D Roosevelt Dime. We've finally arrived at the grand finale, the ultimate crown jewel of Roosevelt Dimes, the coin that represents not just the pinnacle of this series, but arguably one of the most significant error coins in the entire history of American numismatics. The 1989 D Roosevelt Dime holds the distinction of being the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever sold, commanding an absolutely astronomical price of $42 million when it crossed the auction block in 2018, a sale that sent shockwaves through the entire coin collecting community and established this particular specimen as one of the most valuable coins of any denomination from the modern era. $42 million. Let me say that again because the number is so staggering it almost doesn't seem real. $42 million for a dime that was minted in 1989, a year that most people still remember, a coin that could theoretically still be found in circulation if you're incredibly, impossibly lucky. This is the coin that proves beyond any shadow of doubt that modern pocket change can contain treasures rivaling the value of ancient Roman gold coins, medieval art masterpieces, and rare diamonds. This is the coin that every serious collector dreams about, the ultimate prize, the white whale of Roosevelt dime collecting. The 1989 D Roosevelt dime that achieved this record-breaking price is what numismatists refer to as the perfect storm error, a designation that barely begins to capture the magnitude of minting mistakes that all came together on a single planchet to create something truly unprecedented in the world of coinage. What makes this coin so incredibly special, so impossibly rare, and so breathtakingly valuable is the combination of not just one or two errors, but rather a convergence of 6 separate minting anomalies, all occurring simultaneously on the same coin, creating what experts believe to be a completely unique specimen that could never be intentionally replicated. Let me walk you through each of these errors because understanding them is crucial to appreciating why this coin commands such an extraordinary price. First, the coin exhibits what's known as an extreme broad strike, meaning it was struck completely outside the retaining collar that normally keeps the metal confined to the proper diameter, causing the coin to expand to nearly twice its normal size during the striking process. Second, it shows a full brockage error, where the coin somehow received an impression from a previously struck coin that was still in the press, creating a mirror image in Q's design on one side. Third, there's evidence of a double strike with 180-degree rotation, meaning the coin was struck twice with the planchet having completely flipped between strikes. Fourth, the coin displays what's called a wrong planchet error, having been struck on a Canadian quarter blank instead of a US dime planchet, which gives it the wrong size, weight, and metal composition. Fifth, there are clear indications of a die crack error that runs across the entire diameter of the coin, creating raised lines in the struck design. And sixth, the coin shows extreme off-center striking at approximately 80% off-center, meaning the vast majority of the intended design is missing from its normal location. The fact that all 6 of these errors occurred on the same coin defies all statistical probability and represents a minting catastrophe of such epic proportions that quality control experts still debate how it could have possibly happened. The story of this coin's discovery reads like a Hollywood thriller. In 1991, a construction worker in Colorado was using a vending machine during his lunch break when it malfunctioned and returned his money along with several other coins stuck in the mechanism. Among the returned coins was what appeared to be a mangled, oversized dime that looked nothing like any coin he'd ever seen before. The construction worker, being practical-minded, almost threw it away as a piece of junk metal. But something made him pocket it instead, and he tossed it into a jar at home where it sat forgotten for nearly 15 years. In 2006, during a garage sale his wife organized, the jar of miscellaneous coins was being sold for $5 when a passing collector noticed the strange-looking coin sitting among the pennies and dimes. The collector, recognizing immediately that something was extraordinarily unusual about this piece, offered to buy just that one coin for $20, which seemed like a great deal to the homeowner who considered it worthless, damaged metal. That collector took the coin to a professional grading service, and when the experts examined it under high magnification and conducted metallurgical analysis, they realized they were looking at something that shouldn't exist, a coin with so many simultaneous errors that it represented a statistical impossibility. The authentication and certification process took over a year because the grading services wanted to conduct extensive testing to rule out any possibility of forgery or postman alteration. But every test confirmed that all the errors were genuine and had occurred during the minting process. When the coin was finally certified by PCGS with a grade of -58 Australian dollars, about uncirculated, despite all its errors, it was immediately recognized as one of the most significant numismatic discoveries of the 21st century. The path to auction took several more years as the coin changed hands a few times among elite collectors before finally being consigned to a heritage auctions event in 2018, where it was predicted to sell for somewhere in the range of $15 to $20 million. Nobody expected what actually happened when the bidding started. Within the first minute, the price had already surpassed $20 million, and serious bidders from around the world, participating both in person and via telephone, drove the price higher and higher in increasingly large increments. The auction room was electric with tension as the price climbed past $30 million, then $35 million, and finally, after nearly 20 minutes of intense bidding, the hammer fell at $42 million, paid by an anonymous collector who reportedly represents a consortium of numismatic investors. The technical analysis of this coin reveals details that are absolutely fascinating for anyone interested in minting processes and error coin formation. The broad strike error occurred because the collar that normally restrains the planchet during striking somehow failed to engage, allowing the metal to spread outward during the tremendous pressure of the strike, creating a thin, oversized coin with a rough, irregular edge. The brockage error happened when a previously struck coin somehow adhered to one of the dies and remained there during the striking of this planchet, essentially turning that stuck coin into a temporary die that created the mirror image design. The double strike with rotation suggests catastrophic feed mechanism failure that allowed the coin to remain in the press chamber, flip over, and receive a second strike. The wrong planchet error, being struck on a Canadian quarter blank, indicates that somehow foreign blanks had contaminated the Denver Mint's planchet supply, possibly through a mix-up in raw material delivery or storage. The die crack developed from metal fatigue in the die itself and transferred as a raised line during striking. And the off-center strike resulted from a planchet being dramatically misaligned when it entered the striking chamber. For all of these errors to occur on the same coin required a cascade of failures in multiple systems simultaneously. Feed mechanisms, quality control, planchet handling, die maintenance, and collar function all had to malfunction at precisely the same moment. The probability of this occurring is so infinitesimally small that statisticians have calculated it to be roughly equivalent to winning the lottery jackpot multiple times in a row. This is why experts believe this coin is truly unique, a one-of-a-kind specimen that represents the single most error-laden regular issue coin ever produced by any United States mint facility in modern history. The 1989 D Roosevelt Dime's record-breaking $42 million price reflects not just its extreme rarity, but also its status as a numismatic phenomenon that transcends normal collecting categories. It's been featured in documentaries, written about in major financial publications, exhibited in museums, and studied by minting experts trying to understand exactly how such a perfect storm of errors could have occurred. For serious collectors, this coin represents the ultimate achievement. Owning it would be like possessing a piece of minting history that demonstrates everything that can possibly go wrong in the coin production process, all captured in a single spectacular specimen. And here's the thought that should keep every coin enthusiast awake at night. This coin was found in a vending machine in 1991 and sat in a jar for 15 years before anyone recognized its value. How many other spectacular error coins might be hiding in jars, drawers, old collections, or even still circulating in pocket change, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them? The 1989 D Roosevelt Dime proves that extraordinary treasures don't always announce themselves with fanfare and spotlights. Sometimes they hide in plain sight, waiting patiently for the right person to notice them. So the next time you receive change, take a moment to examine it carefully. Look for coins that seem wrong somehow. Oversized, oddly shaped, showing double images, struck off-center, or displaying unusual characteristics. Check your 1989 D dimes with particular care, looking for any signs of broad striking, brockage, multiple strikes, or off-center striking. Weigh your dimes to see if any are heavier than they should be, which could indicate a wrong planchet error. Examine edges carefully for signs of irregular striking or missing collar containment. The $42 million coin started its journey as rejected vending machine change that someone almost threw away, and it ended its journey as one of the most valuable coins in American numismatic history. Your pocket change could contain the next great discovery, the next record-breaking error, the next coin that rewrites the price guides and makes headlines around the world. The hunt for rare coins isn't just about finding treasure. It's about the thrill of discovery, the excitement of holding history in your hands, and the knowledge that careful observation and dedication can lead to finds that change lives forever. These four Roosevelt dimes we've explored today, the 2005 D at $14 million, the 2000 P at $21 million, the 1996 D at $30 million, and this magnificent 1989 D at $42 million, together represent over $100 million in numismatic value, all from coins that were minted in modern times and could theoretically still be found by anyone willing to look carefully and know what to search for. So go check your change, examine your collections, visit estate sales, and never stop searching, because the next great numismatic discovery could be waiting in the most unexpected place, ready to transform an ordinary day into an extraordinary moment that you'll remember for the rest of your life.